Kerstyn Comley, from co-CEO of MeeTwo. It helps anxious teenagers talk about difficult things and explore the benefits and dangers of online peer support. So please have a demonstration. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Amazing. Thank you. Let me tell you about Katie. Katie was a typical happy, healthy teenager when quite abruptly at age 16 she developed severe anxiety, and that led to bulimia, self-harm and even an attempted suicide. And unfortunately, Katie's experience is becoming ever more common. The Millennium Cohort study, which was published in 2016, identified that 1 in 4 girls aged 14 showed signs of depression. Last year, the rate of referrals to hospitals for girls who self-harm doubled, and last year 200 children, teenagers, committed suicide. 70% of them were boys. So these are all very desperate statistics. But for me, actually, it's worse than that, because 50%, half of all the mental health problems that are faced by adults are already present at age 14, and 3/4 by the age of 24, which means that if we can help children to have happier and healthier lives, we can have more impact in their life than at any other time in their life. And for that reason, myself and my fabulous co-founder, the journalist and psychologist Susie Godson, started MeeTwo. MeeTwo is a free app that helps anxious teenagers talk about difficult things. And when a young person like Katie uses MeeTwo, she can anonymously share her most personal problems with a non-judgmental, supportive peer group, so other young people can give her support and advice. Now, anonymity is great, and it lets us have the confidence to talk about literally anything, but as you will all know from your own experiences with social media, when humans think they're not being watched, they tend to behave pretty badly. And our priority is to keep our young users safe, and so we check every single thing before it goes live. And we also guide the conversation, so we have trained super peers who are undergraduate students studying psychology, and we have the MeeTwo experts. We also have a very sophisticated safeguarding system that can identify the most vulnerable young people and redirect them to the more specialist support that they need. MeeTwo also has educational resources that we've put up in direct response to the things that young people are talking about, and we have a directory of third-party support. MeeTwo is actually 1 year old, almost exactly today, and it has been a really fantastic first year. We now have 4,000 registered users, and we've won a number of awards, the most significant being that last year we were named as one of the 100 most important innovations in education in the world by the very prestigious 100.org. And for those of you who are working in education in the room, I really do recommend you check them out. They've got some fantastic work on there. These accolades are great. They're very uplifting. They get me through the day. But of course, our objective is to help young people cope better with anxiety. And so the question that I ask myself every day, and even at weekends, much to my husband's frustrations, is, does it work? Yes, it does. We know it does because we've had independent evaluation, but more importantly, because the young people tell us it works. Around 20% of the replies that come onto the app are for people thanking the community for their support or thanking us specifically. And I just wanted to read out one which is quite fun that we got in the summer. It says, "I honestly love this place." Oh, it's written by Evil Indigo Cat, and it says, I honestly love this place. Random strangers seeking help. It's amazing what the right kind of people can do. Now, one of the most exciting things to have emerged from this venture are the data, and more specifically the insights that we are now getting into youth mental health from the data. And that's both at an individual child-by-child basis, and also when we pull all the data together and look at it on an aggregate level. So for a child or a young person who has been using MeeTwo over a number of months, we can go back and we can get some really useful information, and that's often hidden about their situation and their circumstance. So, for example, where we have had a young person who has persistently and periodically described very low mood and even suicidal ideation, we can identify by cross-matching it against other things they've written that there's actually a hormonal component to what they're feeling that maybe a counsellor and they themselves just haven't spotted. Or in another example, we had a young person who had both physical and mental health problems. They were getting all sorts of support from a range of professionals. But when we looked at what they were talking about, we could identify gaps in their treatment that was meaning the treatment they were getting just wasn't working. And that for me is very exciting, because it goes again to the heart of what Josh was talking about, in that this non-judgmental approach allows people to really explore what's going on and find out areas where they can get help and solutions. And then at a macro level, when we pull all the data together, already within only just 4,000 users, we are developing a map of the trends and the issues that young people are really facing and how that changes throughout the year. So, for example, the media love to demonise social media. As far as they're concerned, that is the cause of this decline in youth mental health, and it's because it maps quite neatly onto the creation of the iPhone back in 2006, 2007. But in fact, our teenagers almost never talk about social media. Instead, they talk about very old-fashioned problems, family conflict, exam stress, relationships, gender and sexuality. And we can see that once our data set grows, we will have the power to change policy and to affect the NHS and the services that they provide, which is really exciting. I'm about to wrap up, but I just first of all wanted to also share something about another project that we've been working on. For the past year, we have been collecting the stories of young people about their lives and their well-being, and we really felt that they deserved to be published. So we have collected those together and we have put them in with a holistic directory of support that covers all of the main topics that are discussed on the app. And rather than just giving the usual national websites and charities, we have also looked at all the other ways that young people can help themselves, from the apps, the books, the TED Talks, the film, even the products or activities, and put that into the directory. And then at the back of the handbook, we have got a collection of interviews by some of the leading thinkers on youth mental health. So this is going to be a fantastic compendium of information for both the young people and their parents and their educators, and it's called the MeeTwo Mental Health Handbook. We kick-started the first publication run. Nips very kindly was one of our generous donors to that, and that's given us the opportunity to give the handbook for free to 500 schools, and we're hoping that we will find a sponsor to get it out to the rest of the schools in the UK. So please do look out for that. And if your school, you would like to nominate your school to get one of those copies, just come and see me afterwards. So we're going to go to questions, but I do have a little ask of you. MeeTwo exists. It's free for teenagers 13 and up. We just now need to get more people using it. So if you have teenagers, you know of teenagers, or you're connected to secondary schools, do let them know. I've got some little cards, little goodies that you can give to those teenagers. It would be brilliant to increase and spread this community. Thank you.
Do you have questions? We do have a few minutes for questions. Hi.
I actually have two. How do you ensure safeguarding in respect of people joining it and targeting vulnerable children? Because obviously that would be a way of mine.
Yeah, I'm completely worried about it. So when you join, the first thing is when you join MeeTwo, obviously you go through the quite typical kind of verification process as you would for many apps. We insist that all the users create a brand new username. So that username, Evil Indigo Cat, is because you go through a little game to get the kids to create their own username. That's because when we first started, even though we said have a unique username. Of course, all the kids just put their own name, so that helps. And we also create those usernames that are really long, because that deters them from taking that name and using it on other forums, which also happens. But the most important thing is that, as I said, every single thing is checked before it goes live. And we have quite a strict set of moderation guidelines. So, for example, you're not allowed to post any personal information at all. So any Snapchat handles, Instagram handles, they all get screened out. Even to the point, we had somebody a few months ago who'd disclosed that they were from Sheffield, and that's okay, you know, that's a big geographical area, so we're happy with that, but they disclosed they're from Sheffield, they described a whole load of issues that were going on, and then in one post they discussed their babysitter, and I won't give the babysitter's name, but they named the babysitter, and we didn't let that through, because, you know, somebody who knew them would probably be able to join those dots up, so we're very strict on that. We have a minimum age limit. You can't use the app if you're under 13. Occasionally we get kids who lie. We know that there is a need to support under 13s, that's something we're looking at. But if we do find that, you know, somebody discloses they're under 13, we have to deal with that. We don't actually go by proper age, except that all of the information and all the marketing is targeted at teenagers. And to be honest, occasionally you get an adult coming on, and either they get bored very quickly and they go away because it's just not of relevance to them. But what I love about MeeTwo is the fact that it's all anonymous. Is that actually nobody knows whether you're 15 or you're 80. And so long as the advice is sound and of good quality, it doesn't matter. And it breaks down those barriers and those prejudices that we see in both directions. You know, adults are prejudiced against kids, but equally kids are prejudiced. So that's really great.
The second question was, so you know how you said you get all the data, and if you feel that the child is missing certain treatments, how do you correspond with the parents?
Yeah, so at the moment that is an area that we are trying to figure out, because we're so new. I don't know why, but weirdly we didn't actually ever think about this big data source. We were going to get when we started. So that's definitely an area that's under development. So at the moment we don't actually contact the kids. We are looking at the best ways to do that, how we would do that in connection to CAMS or other service providers. We guard quite closely the fact that this is a site for teenagers to be independent. I think that's really important. So we don't connect and communicate with the parents. Obviously, in the very extreme circumstances, like any online provider, if we felt that there was a severe risk of, you know, death for the child, we would breach. But that's very, very, very rare and unusual. But so yeah, this is a very much a quite guarded space for teenagers.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
I work with SafetyNet, local charity, and I'm involved in some of the programmes where vulnerable children are talking confidentially to us about things that might be affecting them. And I really love your idea. I've got a teenage daughter as well, so I've got two hats on here.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering what your thoughts are about a young person using this wonderful service as an alternative to having a face-to-face conversation with someone they trust, and if they are at risk, would that mean that the safeguarding network around them wouldn't kick in if there was a real problem?
So we actually find the opposite, because we find that what young people mostly use it for is an opportunity to articulate a problem for the first time and experiment with what it feels like to do that. And most often the advice that they get given by the other young people is go and find a trusted adult, go and talk to a teacher, here's how you make a GP appointment, you don't need to go to your parents, that kind of thing. So it's actually completely opposite. And because with our safeguarding system we can sort of monitor a young person over time, if we feel that they really do need to go and get some specialist support, we will email them with all those numbers, with all that detail. Yeah, so it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.